Another edition of the Haas Talks Roadshow. Yeah, that's right. We're going 2 for 1 this week. And joining me, Frank Galusha. Frank, thanks for taking time away from those purple machines to come chit-chat, my man. It's so good to see you, dude.
It's always a pleasure, my friend. I love being here chatting with you, so thanks for the invite. I really appreciate it.
You know, Frank, it's been a long time since we've chit-chatted. The last time we had talked, I think it wasn't even Shootout, man. It was probably Port City.
Yeah.
Like KKM maybe? Like, golly, it's been like...
It was one of them shows. It might have been the spring show, like Turnpike Challenge, but
something
I think
like that.
KKM might sound right too.
It was right after you had kind of you preluded and you told me that you were not necessarily done racing, but you told me that you were like taking a step back for other things that were going on, right? Like, so what are you doing now? What's going on with you?
Well, a lot of people have asked me why I'm not racing, so I guess to touch on that a little bit so people understand the primary driver there. I actually I suffered a back injury when I had a pretty good crash last year in August, and I was dealing with some things that I for a long time kept to myself, but were presenting problems for my physical health, and so I had to have back surgery, and I scheduled that for January this year, and so it's not that I can't race, but I learned a lot about my condition, and just overall health physically, and so I'm getting older, obviously. I've got children. I've got a lot of other things going on with the race team that I want to focus on and make sure that I'm doing the right things so I can be successful. And when it comes to my health, I'm kind of in a frame of mind of preserving what I've got at this point. So I don't feel absolutely miserable as I get older. But yeah, I mean, at some point in time, I'm probably going to hop back in my race car. It'll probably be just in a setting that's more so for fun and enjoying doing what I love to do, drive race cars and go make some more memories, and it'll probably be like on a local setting. You never know, you'll probably see me at a big race again, strapping in just because I can't help myself, and I have a lot of confidence in what I do. I believe in myself, and so I don't know. We'll see. I'm not really in a hurry to make that decision right now. I'm trying to make sure that I can succeed just on the racing thing in general. I love this sport, man. I love race cars. I love working on them and figuring out what makes them go faster. And man, I live, eat, breathe, sweat, bleed this stuff. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I'm at.
So. On a personal level too, not only did the health deal come in, but there's been some changes career-wise that have led to different things, and we'll just touch on that just very shortly because it's not a defining factor of the reasoning that I wanted to do this interview.
Sure.
But you got to talk about the elephant in the room, so to speak, because most people have heard, most people think they know, but there's so much more that goes into it that we don't even need to touch on because, quite frankly, it's really none of our business. At the end of the day, Frank Galusha is going to answer to Frank Galusha and maybe the wife.
She's the boss.
At some point.
She's the boss.
I mean, she's smoking hot, by the way. Like, dude, I don't know how you did it.
She'll appreciate that. I got lucky.
I want to make this clear, too. Like, I can't believe that she's not here this weekend because I was kind of excited to see the FG Enterprises cars, and I'm like, oh yeah, guess who else we're going to get to see? And I stroll over here today, and no luck. But anyways, I just want to make that known that we do miss you. We are thinking about you. So, so just a quick, brief synopsis of the change. I mean, maybe not necessarily what you wanted, but you're playing the hand that's been dealt.
In the moment in time when things changed, right, that wasn't necessarily what I wanted, or at least at the time it wasn't what I thought I wanted, right? I had put my heart and soul, everything that I could give and some to growing EMI and making sure there was a future there, and man, I took pride in us becoming one of the biggest players in the realm of manufacturing race cars, right? Like I almost had this warfare mentality, like we're gonna take over, right? And we were building everybody else's stuff too, and just trying to go down this path of like just whatever it was in my mind that it took to succeed, or the way I define success, right? Like that was my driver, right? But when it comes down to it, EMI is closed. I mean, I think people are well aware of that at this point in the racing community. But as far as what happened, I mean, I really don't know much more than what the general public knows, because I really haven't even gotten my own closure on the situation. It's just kind of one of those deals where ownership just decided that it wasn't in their best interest to manufacture cars anymore. I think I speculate on it a lot, not so much anymore because I've moved on. But I think, it's probably mostly to do with liability concerns. Speedway's a huge corporation, and there's a lot more at risk than just a little chassis shop, right? If something bad happened, somebody got hurt, whatever, the right legal team got a hold of a case that might have had something to do with the products we were producing. Let's face it, this is a dangerous sport, right? People get hurt in these cars. But like if someone were to sue EMI, they're not suing EMI, they're suing Speedway, and that's a much bigger thing. And so I think when weighing the risk versus reward, it doesn't make sense for a corporation like that to take such a risk when the reward is somewhat minimal in the grand scheme of things, right? It's not that we weren't profitable. It's not that we didn't have a lot of great things going on, but in the end, they have several more profitable businesses, and they've somewhat built an empire, right? And so one wrong move and you put that empire at risk and take that down over, something like silly race car chassis.
Yeah.
We just, in today's day and age, it's just not worth taking that risk. And that's not a fact. I don't know what really happened. All I got was kind of what the public announcement was from the company, right? Like, it's just not in our best interest to build chassis at this time. Now, as far as I'm concerned, and where that left me, they were actually gracious with me. They wanted to keep me as an employee of Speedway. They offered me a great position. They made me feel really good about myself and what I did for the company and what I can bring to the table in terms of value for the company. And they assured me that I always have a place there if I want to continue down a path of having a career with Speedway. But, it just, at the end of the day, I really didn't feel like there was anything left at Speedway there for me. You know what I mean? Like, I was really invested in the chassis manufacturing thing and EMI. I was brought in at EMI from the beginning, and I left when EMI was done, right? And so they kind of left me with a decision to make that I had to sleep on for a little bit. But it was, keep a position here, we'll take care of you, you have a place, or we'll offer you a severance package like they did with everybody else that worked there. So it's not like people just got their heads cut off and they were left with nothing, right? They at least tried to help everybody that had something to do with that place, because it left people without jobs, right? And that's hard. So I appreciate what ownership did for all of us, just from the fact that, like, hey, we're not going to just kick you out the door and leave you hanging and just treat you like you're not a human being, you know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
And so they made sure everybody had a little bit of money to figure out what they needed to do next and get by for a while. So we all appreciate that.
But I'm just going to speak off the cuff here, and maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, and correct me if I'm wrong. Frank Galusha is Frank Galusha for a reason. It wasn't built by... You're not Frank Galusha because of EMI. That doesn't define who you are or what you've done and the legacy that you're building, right? The brand of yourself that you're building. So Frank Galusha has ponied up and still chasing down the same dreams that you've had since long ago of you even remotely mentioning to me a development deal and putting together, the FG development and getting the LLC and doing it all right and bringing in the right drivers and making a culture inside of a brand that is bigger than just who you are and what you stand for. You got a lot of people that are buying into that brand and what you've got going on now. And whenever people stop and if you look at the big picture of things, yeah, you talk micro world, you're going to hear Frank Flood, you're going to hear Hyper Racing, you're going to hear all these different names that pop up and come and go, but you're always hearing Frank Galusha too. Frank Galusha's not going anywhere.
That's yeah. I mean, I guess when it comes to Frank Galusha and the racing thing, I mean, just in general, I guess where I'm at right now, the idea is to be successful on my own, right? And so I have no intention to go seek employment, at some company doing some monotonous job. Like, that's not really for me. I feel like I'm capable. I'm a capable human being. I've got plenty of experience running not only a business for a corporation, but running my own businesses. And I just feel like I have the means to be successful on my own. So that's really whatever it is that I'm doing, right? Whether it's racing or unracing related, right? That's the idea. Number one is just to be successful for myself, and so if I ever find myself in a position where I have to go seek employment, right, I'm going to feel like I'm failing, right? I tell my wife all the time, if I can give half the effort to something I got going on that I gave to EMI, we're going to be more than fine, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to bring more income to our family doing it that way than I would ever be able to do working for somebody else. So that's kind of the first half of where I'm at. But then when it comes to the race team specifically, dude, this is what I love, right? I love race cars. We were talking earlier, you know what I mean? Just figuring out what makes them go and how do I make it go faster, and just never being complacent with what we're putting on the racetrack. I think it's hard to deny that I field fast race cars, but then, getting to a point where with a team, executing with a team, and how do we produce results? How do we take our shortcomings and learn from those and get better? That's what gets me up every morning and gets me excited about the day, is I get to work on things that I'm passionate about. And really, to be quite honest, since I no longer work at EMI, it's almost reinvigorated that passion for racing, right? Like I'm so much more into what I'm doing, and I'm just, every day when I get up, I put my best foot forward, and it's, I think the difference and one of the biggest keys to being successful at anything in the world is just how much effort are you willing to give to whatever it is that you're doing. And so even on days where I'm unmotivated and don't want to do a damn thing, right, I give relentless effort to what I'm doing. And so I'm starting to actually see results with the race team, and I'm trying really hard to find more consistency with those results. We can't win every race, and but I think this is something that I'll always do, because this is how I love to spend my time. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Yeah, that's where we're at.
How did this relationship with Dylan Cadis kind of start off, right? Like, you got Dylan Cadis in one of your cars, and I keep on seeing you look over there at that beautiful piece that you have. They're getting that car cleaned up, and it's got to be refreshing to know that you do bring fast cars to the racetrack, but you also bring fast race car drivers. You bring smart race car drivers. You bring young, unnoticed talent to the racetrack week in and week out. And before we talk about that new talent, I want to talk about the old talent, the talent that's been around the block, the talent that's been here, that calls this racetrack home, that is another one of those names that you cannot go talking about micro racing without talking about a Dylan Cadis, a Quinn Jones. You can't talk about Sweet Springs without mentioning those two names. So how did that whole relationship and that bond and that team come together, that pairing?
So me and Dylan have been extremely, extremely good friends for a lot of years, man. Like, we kind of cut our teeth racing against each other. I mean, I'm a little bit older than Dylan, and I've been racing a little bit longer than he has, but like I just remember the day he came into the fold, and like right out of the gate, this kid like actually kept me honest at a couple races. I'm like, who in the heck is this guy? And then you get to know this kid, because he earns your respect right away. I mean, we're talking decades ago, and it's just like, well, then you get to know a guy, and it's like you can't help but love this kid because he's just a genuine, honest, great human being, and he's his attitude in life and just who he is as a person, it's so contagious. You want to be around that. And so we've naturally become really, really close friends. Like, we stood in each other's weddings. Like, he's going to be one of my best friends for life, right? And so then, to lead up to a point where he's on my race team and we're racing together, that this has been a bench racing pipe dream that we've talked about since, sorry, I'm going to get emotional. We've talked about this since before I ever had more than one race car. And, I've kind of told Dylan, like, I feel like with my understanding of race cars and what makes them go and how to get the most out of them and his natural raw talent and ability to drive a race car, I feel like if I could put him in one of my cars, even if we're underfunded, under-budgeted compared to other teams he's raced on, whatever, I feel like he would be so much stronger with me than anything else in the pits, because we have the relationship, the connection, the bond as friends, but we share the passion, and we're both motivated by the same things when it comes to race cars. So it's like, I know that he's going to get the most out of what I give him, and he's not going to hold back on, feedback, and so we learn together every time we go to the racetrack, and it's probably the most enjoyable thing I've been doing with race cars is racing with my buddy. And so that's one of the things I'm most proud of, is that things that we talked about, right? Like, I manifested that came to fruition, but it's because that's something that motivated me, right? I wanted to do that, and I got myself in a position it took a lot of years to even get here, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but I found myself in a position where it's like, Dylan, I got a car for you to race. Can you race? And that was a weird thing the first time, because like, he was already on a team and he was committed to a team, and so he had to call them and be like, hey, this is something I've been dreaming about. We've been dreaming about, and I really don't want to let you down, but I have to be honest, I want to drive Frank's car. Is that okay? Do you understand? Like, I don't want to ruin a relationship. I'm not trying to burn a bridge or step on your toes, but this is one of my best friends in the whole wide world. And so, that's kind of where it started. And the very first time he sat in my car, he kicked everybody's ass. Like, he kicked my ass, because we were both racing. And to get your ass kicked by your own equipment, by one of your buddies, that's, I couldn't have been more proud, because he was the first person that won besides myself in my race car. But it's also one of those things where it's like a shot to the gut too, because it's like, I'm the man, this is my shit, and pardon my language, but you just paddled my ass in my car, like, how dare you?
How dare you?
But moving forward, right, like, that just set it up.
Made it even better.
It's like, okay, now we're going to do it. Let's commit to this, and let's go racing. And whatever it takes to field a car, we're going to put our best foot forward to field that car. And even if, times are tight and times are tough, right? Like, we're gonna put all of our effort and energy into making sure that car is in the best shape that we can get it in, and we're going to put it on the track, and we're going to put ourselves in a position to be competitive and win races. So right now we're working on the execution factor and the consistency factor, because the cars have been good and the cars have been fast. But yeah, like, we're just living a damn dream, dude. Like, we talked about it, we manifested it, and now we're living it, and it's probably one of the things I'm most proud of when it comes to racing.
You hear those stories all the time, the stories of, we talked about this over a couple of beers, and the next thing you know, it's like, oh, wow, I had enough money and I got another chassis. And now to see everything come kind of full circle, to be an outsider as myself and be able to watch this happen over the course of several years and a lot of work and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, it gets you excited about things. But the other thing that gets me excited is I had the chance, like you said, we were chit-chatting earlier, and our chit-chats develop really quick. It's kind of like a storm, a pop-up storm. I pop in, and then all of a sudden here we are. We're like in-depth conversations, and that's just why I always enjoy talking with you, because you have a passion for this, and that passion preludes and shows whenever you bring in young, raw, unseen talent. like you have with your newest driver. Tell us who he is, where he's from, and let's just give the racing world well, I don't even know how many people are going to watch this, but let's just say it's 56 people watch this. Give those 56 people an insight of what they're about to witness over the course of the next couple of years.
Yeah, so I've actually, so just to touch on Mason first. This weekend, it's his first time sitting in the car. I've got Mason Hannell. He's a young pup from Buffalo, New York. It's so interesting how I get involved with people because half the time I don't even know how these people get a hold of me or where the contact information comes from. It's just this weird organic thing that happens, and maybe it's the universe just letting my life unfold the way it's supposed to. But Mason, he's got a karting background as far as his personal racing experience is concerned, and then he comes from a family that's heavy into pavement racing. So his dad's got big block modified, and he gets to take that out for a spin and hot lap it every now and then and get some laps on that. I mean, like, this kid's used to manhandling a little bit. I shouldn't say a little bit, a lot of it more of a race car than what these micros are. But this is a racing family that wants to go racing. It's a kid with a dream that's real young. He's 12 years old, right? And I haven't gotten to know him real great just yet because this weekend's when I first met him face to face. But I've spent a year talking on the phone with his dad, Bobby, and it's just one of those things where it just starts out where we're just kind of feeling each other out and building a level of rapport. I mean, the number of different kids that I've raced with as opposed to the number of people I've talked to about racing, it's like those are drastically different numbers, right? I've allowed very few of those younger ones and excited people to get involved, whether they got the money or not, because it has to feel right to me too, like as I get to know these people. And when I was talking to Bobby over the course of the last year, right, like I can't help but to relate to him so much in how he was raised and what his racing world has been like, racing with his dad and just being around racing, right? Like, we're so much alike in so many ways, and how we were raised and what our racing circumstances have been. Like, obviously his racing world is in a whole different realm, but it kind of made it easy for me to get involved with them because like I felt like we're really gonna click together because he understands what I go through and I understand what he's been through, and we're on the same level as far as that's concerned. So I was nervous coming here and getting Mason ready to go because like this is not like, it's not like we're going to the weekly local thing and just getting a little experience. Like, we just threw him to the wolves. He's barely old enough to run this deal, and we're going out and we're racing against people who do this for a living with a big purse, and we're trying to compete, and it's like, what am I getting myself into, But then you start working with a kid and you start to get a feel for his heart. Just to kind of try to give a brief summary of how this weekend's gone up to this point, right? Like, I didn't even really give him any coaching pointers whatsoever on the first couple practice sets. I just wanted him to, like, go out, push yourself, just go as fast as you can go, but get a feel for the car. It's something different from anything he's felt, and I want you to understand the level of power you're dealing with. I want you to understand how the thing's going to react to a steering wheel input or a throttle input, right? Like, just get to know the car a little bit first. Then once we start understanding what we got, then I'll start giving you some pointers. And we wore his ass out on practice day, and by the end of it, not only was he on a pace, but he was actually kind of getting around the track better than I ever expected he could. And then, on race day, well, now let's see how it works out when we mix him into a crowd, right? I'm still nervous as hell. Like, I feel like that's my kid out there. I'm worried for him. I'm nervous, but I want the best for him. I absolutely want him to succeed. I want to give him the best I can give him. I want to give him a car that's capable of winning, and I want to coach him to the best of my ability to help him get that fast track to learning what he needs to be doing in this race car. And it's both heat races that he did, you know, he started kind of mid-pack, wound up the back of the field, and I knew right away after his heat races that I had a race car driver, not because of how the race itself played out, but because of how he carried himself when he came back. He was so dejected and upset that he got beat, you know what I mean? And it's like, come on, kid, you know, you can't come out here
It's
and
your
expect,
first time, like, come on, dude.
you can't expect to go race against these wolves and go win that heat race. But now we got a taste of what it's like to race, and you just keep working with them. You keep talking to them about things, and I've learned with working with all the younger people over the years that, like, you can't give them too much information all at once, right? They can't absorb all that. So I've started taking an approach with Mason that I think's working, where it's just you give him, every time he hits the track and comes off, you just give him 1 pointer or maybe 2 pointers. All right, work on this a little bit. This is how you need to approach it. This is what you need to think about in this situation. Go again. And what's been awesome for me is seeing him apply that, like, immediately and getting better. And by the end of the night, we're racing forward in our qualifiers, right? Like, and he's passing cars and looking like a natural in the race car. Like, for me, I feel good about tonight just because I think he's going to go out and he's going to give himself a chance to make a race. And that's our goal. I didn't have a goal for yesterday other than incremental improvements and make sure every time we hit the racetrack we're better than we were than the last time. Today, I feel like going out and making the feature in both classes is a realistic goal. He can achieve that. I believe in him, and I believe in what we're doing in our camp, and I'm going to continue to put my best foot forward to set him up to be in a position where he can succeed at achieving that goal. So it's been fun. Outside of that, I've got other kids that I'm racing with throughout the year, different deals I've made, like, you know, the thing with Mason, it's only a handful of shows is where we started, and it's probably going to progress into more. I don't know how him and his dad feel, but I think they're loving life right now doing this deal, and I hope to do more with them because I really, really appreciate who they are as people. But I've got a young man from Sherbrooke, Quebec, Canada, that's been racing last week. Same car Mason's driving. He sat in that car and he won at Cam and he won at Fairbury, and he raced the shootout last year with me, and that was kind of a rocky experience. Then he raced at the beginning of the year at Port for the Outlaw Nationals, and he improved a lot, and he really made me proud. We took the wings off with him, and that was a little sketchy because, like, I think it caught him by surprise on how different the car would react. And then you know, we raced last week. I got a few more shows I'm going to do with him just based on the deal we made, and then yeah, I got some other things down the road where we got different people sitting in seats. So I don't know, I'm excited.
So, Frank, you've just always been passionate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably the best word that describes Frank Galusha is passionate. And it doesn't matter if it's racing, your kids, your wife, just life in general. You're super passionate, and out of passion comes positivity. And, I mean, it just feels like you just breathe that into people. The 5-year goal, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh, man.
Like in 2028, we're going to sit down at the Tulsa Shootout.
Okay.
And we're going to talk again. I'm going to be like, hey, remember back in 2023, that Mason kid? Now here he is winning all these races. And like, here you are. You got, you know, your kids are all growing up and everything else. Like, where does Frank Galusha want to be in 5 years?
You know, I'd love to keep building my own businesses, right? Like, you know, the FG development thing, I love the heck out of doing that, and I'm going to continue doing that. But, like, you know, I want to add to that business portfolio and implement other things that I'm interested in doing outside of the realm of racing, right? Like, to be able to go racing and enjoy racing, you obviously got to have a little bit of disposable income. This isn't a cheap thing to do, right? It takes a small fortune to go enjoy our passion, and at least on the level I want to do it, right? Like on a more competitive professional level, right? Like it takes a little bigger small fortune to be doing this, and it takes so much work and effort all the time. But I also I have big goals as far as just seeking that financial independence for my family, right? And I'm not going to do that getting an hourly wage working for somebody else. So like just to build some businesses. I won't touch too much on what some of those ideas are, because I really, I got a long way to go before some of that stuff could even become reality. But, like we talked before, like dreaming big and setting goals and working really, really hard, just relentless effort to get to that next goal, and then setting a new goal that's just out of reach, and relentless effort to get to that goal. I want to do a few things that ideally in the end, over the course of maybe a longer term than 5 years, right, I find myself in a position where I've taken care of my family in such a way that we don't have to want for anything, right? We have that financial independence, and we can go do what we want. I don't have to be the richest guy in the world. I don't need to be a bazillionaire, but if I want to take my wife to Mexico for a week and go enjoy some pina coladas on the beach, right? Like, all right, we're going to go.
There you go.
Those are the type of things. If my kids want to go to Disney World, shit, let's pack up and go. Like, I don't want my family to want for nothing. And regardless of what the economy is or how things are in life at any given moment in time, like, those are things that are achievable. It's just how much are you willing to give to get there, and so I just remind myself every day that no matter how I'm feeling or no matter what's going on in the world, like, just keep pushing myself, keep pushing, put one foot in front of the other, right? Like it's life can kick your ass, and it's definitely kicked mine a lot, you know what I mean? But you can't let that stop you or deter you from where you're trying to go. And so I just keep reminding myself where I'm trying to go, and I ask myself every day, what's it going to take to get there? And I don't know half the time, but as long as I'm busting my hind parts, you know what I mean, we're going to get somewhere.
There you go. Well, race fans, let that be a lesson to all of us. Life can really kick your ass, but just keep on putting one foot in front of the other. Keep on pushing. Remember your goals and set those goals, and just follow through. It's been Frank Galusha right here on the Haas Talks Road Show.
Thanks, guys.
Good job, buddy.
Performance Electronics, custom electronic solutions. From design to manufacturing, let us put your ideas in motion and become your company's full-service electronics manufacturing experts. Performance Electronics.